Join me in a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just be seated. So the November 20th meeting has been called to order, and I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from the October 17th meeting. I see that didn't get changed. October 17th meeting.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes from October 17th.
I think everybody got a copy. Have a second? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye, okay, just make that October. All right. As far as the town supervisor's report goes tonight, our primary function is to review and get the budget approved, and then other things as listed, but the cash flow report as well as the cash flow as well is present, is in everybody's stack, town board members, councilmen and women. The abstracts and warrants were sent out, the deposits were sent out, everybody has that on email, so you've got a full update as to what happened in the previous month. We're on target for income. And we're 88% of our expenditures, so we're a little bit low behind, or not behind, we like being behind. We're a little bit under spending, so we're in good shape for the year so far. We've got one more. Checking the audio. Does the audio work? Good, thank you. Thank you. I also wanted to mention, so our cash flow is here, and everybody can have a copy. Just to run through my normal litany. I had a meeting this week with George Treadwell, who is our head constable, about the holiday lights. That was a very good meeting. We had the same meeting last year in which we discussed safety and picking up litter, which you were involved with that on that committee last year, and we're hoping that you'll jump in on that one again. I'm sure you will. But and the homeowners also apparently check their own area right around their house and right around that cul-de-sac. George had told me that he thought last year's was the best ever because we had additional equipment like cones, keeping people moving in the right direction, extra signs, and he felt like it was really smooth. He invested a little bit more in a couple of two new signs. So we've got a few extra signs. We've got lots of cones like last year, so people can't jump in somebody else's driveway, and the constables can keep them moving. And so, he was very pleased with last year and thinks that we can hopefully keep it as safe this year.
Good.
I wanted to go through a little correspondence with everybody, and this is interesting because we started, remember our Comp Alliance contract that we signed last year, we started with, so we got a $500 check from them this week, or last week. It's called a loyalty distribution, and they're going to try to give them out every year. And we've been with them 1 year, so they had two guys walk over here, come over and give us a $500 check, a loyalty award program for members in the Comp Alliance program. So, that would be nice if we got that every year. They brought us some cashews for a holiday gift, but they've got good reports business-wise. They have 300 members, $47 million in contributions, and more than $18 million in surplus to help the long-term financial stability. So I feel really comfortable, like we made a very smart choice last year. I got a letter from the county executive, Marcus Molinaro, and there's a few things in there that we're going to want to know and maybe talk about later. One of the things is, as you guys, as everybody remembers, that we're losing that AIM funding, which is in our budget, and we're going to be down $10,000 because after our budget passed in January, they changed. So our size town will not be getting that. It's a little over $10,000. We did try to find out how in the world that number was calculated and where they came up with that number, and nobody knows in Albany. They just don't know how.
Is that why they just discontinued it like that?
I think they discontinued it because they're searching for money wherever they can get it. So what happened was, as County Executive Molinaro says, what the Albany did was take it away from us, so they're not paying it directly, and they've asked the counties to take it out of sales tax and reimburse us that way. So
our sales tax number will be better.
So our sales tax number, and I have to tell you, because that $10,000 is not based on anything and nobody knows what it is, our sales tax is more lucrative than that, right?
Yeah.
So, but county executive says the sales tax revenue continues to be shared with 18.5% growth since the 2012 base year, going to towns, villages, and cities. In 2020, it is projected to be $33 million. It'll be shared with all the local municipalities. In December of 2019, New York State is going to withhold $1.2 million in sales tax revenue. They're holding it back from them. And an additional $100,000 in May of 2020 to replace the elimination of state funding of its Aid to Municipalities program. So we are expecting some sort of check from them in December. I'm not counting on it for sure, it would be nice, but anyway,
Yeah.
that's Albany says they're holding that back, they're not paying it, and that we should get it that way. So we'll find out. So the 2020 sales tax budget projection that the county made obviously considers that number as far as not being in there. So that's very interesting. I hope to get that money. I'll keep you posted and let you know if we do. One other thing that's interesting that I know some of the busier towns and cities like Rhinebeck, the village of Rhinebeck, places like that, we're really pushing at a couple of our Dutchess County supervisors and mayors meeting about short-term rentals and, what that would mean for their town and could they tax them and all that stuff. And so Dutchess County began contracting with a web-based service. Tonight's the court proceedings are Wednesday, so there's a child in the hall waiting for somebody, so I apologize for the background. So Dutchess County is now contracting with a web-based service called Host Compliance, and that is to help identify short-term rentals and aid in the collection of the required hotel occupancy tax. With the growth in short-term rentals, local municipalities are struggling with identifying the location of short-term rentals and determining if and how to adopt and enforce local regulations regarding the practice. So they are going to, and I got a separate letter from the finance office urging us to take advantage of this service that they're going to be providing. So far in our town, we've had very few people come in. We haven't seen any evidence of safety problems or anything else, and so, it has not come up that we need to take any action on this, so until something does come up, we can let it ride. I think with Airbnb, that tax comes out automatically and gets paid to the county. But I'm wondering what our cut is of it. If your house is in Unionville, do we get a piece of that? Or I don't know if that, the tourism people were telling me that they were trying to get the county to give them the entire thing. So bring more tourism in. So this is going to be money that it's newfound money and people are going to be fighting for it sounds like. Anyway, we'll keep you posted, but that's what's happening right now. Also, they had a nice budget. The county has done some new things with the budget, and I won't go through all of his points, but one thing that's interesting is they're investing some more money in local emergency service agencies. They want a fund to purchase notification and information sharing software, and for service agencies, first responders, and law enforcement with timely and accurate response updates, as well as building plans, etc. So they're spending more money on enhancing all their emergency management stuff. And then they're also taking over the local cost of the Office of Aging senior picnics, going to a fully donation-based model. So that's nice. So our seniors can go to that picnic and the town won't get a bill for it, which is great.
It's going to be donations by who? The
I think
seniors?
that
Businesses.
yeah,
Businesses?
Yeah.
I think they're going to ask for sponsorships.
Yeah, businesses.
That'd be good. That'd be nice for everybody. So, although we certainly don't mind paying for our folks when they go,
Yeah.
but if they think they can swing it another way, that's terrific. And the last correspondence I wanted to share was we got the administrative fee schedule from Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, and their fees went up, but their entry-level person, that hourly rate, it's an overtime rate actually, it went down 2 cents. But the senior member went up, and the average rate went up from $58.15 to $57.98. It's not a big increase, but while they dropped one, they added a couple of others. So nothing big, nothing major. They're trying to be tight with their expenses, but they're good. We signed that contract last year, and we reviewed those fees, and that's just an update. Okay? So we have a really exciting recycling center update that we're thrilled about. In our last voting session that the board had, after doing a lot of research, and I have to say that last year we were worried about the recycling center losing money, over $13,000, which is a big hit for our budget. And so as a result, we adjusted our fees, and Tom St. Ange assured me it was the first time they'd been adjusted since 1980. But it's still, people felt it because our seniors went from, what were they, 30 to?
30.
To 75. And then our non-residents went to 100, and then our residents went from 50 to 75. Right? I think everybody was at 75. So, but I have to say, the board promised everybody last year that we would watch it all year long, and hopefully if the expenses didn't get out of whack, that we would do something about it this year. And the good news is that it looks like it's levelized, and it means that we're going to take our senior residents, going from $75 down to $50. And we voted on this in the last session, so we're going to make an announcement about it and let people know that seniors can get recycling center permits back down to, it's down to 50, not quite 30, but it's down to 50. And not only that, the next big announcement is recycling center permits can now be purchased online with a credit card. If you go to the town website, it's available now, but Andrea and I, we have some tweaking to do tomorrow, so it's easier for people to find it. We'll do all that tomorrow, so I know you'll have an announcement during your reporting period. But that's really big news, and we're
Could
pleased.
you mention the age cutoff for considered to be a
Oh,
senior?
it's 65 and up.
Okay,
It
thanks.
used to be 45. I don't know what it was.
It was quite low. It was quite low.
It was anybody above a millennial. It was a senior. But so, and I have to thank Sharon Slocum, actually, who lives in Burbank and was really passionate about the impact small things like that have on the seniors. And I said, well, we promised last year we'd watch it, and now here we were in October, and we realized, you know what, we can swing it next year. So anyway, the board was happy to pass that. We wanted everybody to know. We are now, I'm going to do the budget review now, and then we're going to go on to other reports, because the budget, which there are copies up front, I want to share with the board a tweak that was made since we last met. Now, we've had 3 public hearings on the budget, and the board has met regularly and discussed it and tweaked things and fine-tuned it. And so what we're going to do tonight, I'm just going to kind of review the highlights, pretty much the budget notes that were shared online. It really hasn't changed much, but we do have to go through a budget, somewhat of a review, and then we will vote later on in the meeting to adopt the budget. But here's the thing that's interesting that we want to make sure that everybody knows, that I think is a key component, and that is the taxes are going to be flat for 2020. There's going to be no change from 2019. And the amount to be raised by taxes is $1,890,157, which is the same as 2019. And one of the things that was hard work to do is, this particular year, the state, and they've done this to towns and cities all around, they came down on us and said, we want you to raise the value of all of your houses by 4%. Your assessed value, everybody's assessed value went up by 4%. And we all know that that makes residents very nervous, because you think your assessed value is going up, your taxes are going up, and that, there's a domino effect. And I think the best way for that to work is if your assessed value is going up by 4%, you benefit because your market value increases. If you sell your house, it's going in the right direction. But you don't want a corresponding increase in taxes. So what we did this year is, even though the town taxable value went up $22 million, the cost per thousand, we kept, that was an increase of 4%, but we took our general fund tax per thousand down 4%, and we took the highway fund tax down 4%. So the combination of our town tax, it was going to be $3, it was last year $3.18 per thousand of assessed value, and we're going down to $3.06. So it's a reduction of 11 cents per thousand on your assessed value, which is a negative 4%, which is great, because if your assessed value is going up 4%, you don't want to just see your taxes go up the same amount. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody, and we thought that that would help people be pleased when they get their assessments to go up by the state who mandates them. We are also $63,252 under the tax cap for 2020. We look at national trends, and we looked at the economy. Everything looks strong, and the national trends are with us. So the budget this year provides for year-round employees to get a 3% increase, except for elected officials. In addition, we have several greater increases for merit that we gave a couple out last year that were really important when we had people step up in a very special way, and we did the same thing this year. Healthcare costs increased by 21%. That's not all because the policies increased, it's because we were guessing at how many people were going to be taking advantage of it, and that went into the budget. So the total cost of the town went up 21%. Workers' comp insurance increased by 3%, and liability insurance premiums increased by less than 1%. Now, this is important from our perspective. The Highway Capital Reserve Fund, which everybody remembers that we started earlier this year because we know we have a big snowplow truck coming in our future. It's going to be about $250,000 perhaps, or I'd say ballpark. So in our budget this year, it assumes that $25,000 is going to be transferred from appropriations, and then we're going to take an additional $25,000 transferred in from the highway fund balance for a total of $50,000. Our goal is to try to get $50,000 in that capital reserve fund every year. So in hopes that when we do have to buy this expensive truck, that we won't have to borrow and we'll have the money in the bank to pay for it. So that's our goal, if we can hold out, long enough. The capital reserve fund was started in 4 to 5 years. We estimated 4 to 5 years, and we hope that's true. The other thing that's important is not in a capital reserve fund, which we could do, but we're just going to segregate it in an investment account. We put aside $50,000 to capital outlays for parks, and that is because, as you all know, if you come to some of these meetings, that we've had an estimate on the large roof, the long roof over in the recreation department, and we got a bid, and I think, if Steve will correct me on this, but we got a bid for $250,000, and then I think if you add prevailing wage and everything with the engineers being involved in it, it's going to be a $350,000 potentially, that great of a large purchase. It's coming, and but we are fixing it now. We're repairing some holes and trying to get an additional 3 years or more out of it. So we've got a Band-Aid approach, but we're good. So we're going to try to put $50,000 away every year until we hope we can pay for that roof. We added an additional $45,000 in engineering costs to pay for the engineering design report, which is going to be done to satisfy DEC requirements for Furnace Pond Dam. Everybody knows that's been hanging over our heads for quite a long time, and we have found a terrific engineering firm that this year the board's already talked about. They're already working on our maintenance plan that has to be done for the DEC, based on the fact that the DEC lowered our hazard level back to an A from a B, so our costs to maintain are going to be lower. But we want to be responsible dam owners, and in order to do that, we have to quickly send them our maintenance plan, and then this year, starting in December, we're going to have an engineering analysis done so they can tell us exactly what's wrong with it. That will be sent to the DEC for comment, and then the procedures will start in the new year on the $45,000 purchase of an engineering design review. I mean, those are really the highlights. We've got some infrastructure projects on deck in 2020, and we're going to start talking about those. I guess we should start right away in January or next month. We could start next month. We have narrowed down to a list of 8 infrastructure projects, and based on current, now we have to start the process properly. We're going to have to get quotes, re-quote. We got an original quote, so we have an idea of what things would cost. And collectively, it's over $1 million. If things work our way, I think that we can possibly use fund balance to pay for that and not have to go into any debt. And if they don't work our way, we'll take the decisions as they come and go with it. But we've been saving money, and all the departments have been doing a good job being frugal, and we have enough money in the fund balance to pay for these projects. And we've got our fingers crossed that the bids come in the way we estimated, and so that's coming down the pipe. So I think that infrastructure need, that list that the board came up with, which will be discussed with everybody in town, was an important exercise, and we're going to be ready to go. So, flat taxes, I mean, you can go through and see. The one thing I did want to show everybody, if you flip to the back, each department, some of them are very similar. There aren't any big changes. The one thing I did do, based on our last discussion, is I added more money to the highway superintendent's training budget. based on the conversation we had last month. And when we last saw this in the preliminary budget, when we had our last public hearing, there was $2,053 in that the general fund had kind of went down 2,053 and the highway fund went up 2,053. It's such a small amount of money, our percentages didn't change, but I took that 2,053 and put it in the general fund highway training budget. And that is what was, I got some wonderful classes recommended to me by a real expert in the county, and we've got that in the budget so we can afford to send the new highway superintendent to two really important schools, which will be great, how to manage a highway department and that sort of thing. Other than that, there's no other changes from all the other times we've looked at it. We filled in all the holes. One thing that is good news is we've got a contingent fund this year, and we are going to be, we had a list of items, and we paid off the mower, we had a bill for the constable car, we're putting in new windows in number 11 Timeward Park Road because of we don't want any damage from water and that sort of thing. We have the dams I&M plan, that was $3,000. We can afford to pay off the Ford, which is the only other long-term debt we have. We have a debt schedule in the budget that shows we have one bond that's been around for a few years, 2016 I think, or 17. And we have a Ford 350. We can afford to pay that off. That's up in 2020. And also, the environmental, the engineering analysis for the dam came in, and I reported that it was going to be somewhere between 35 and 45. And the good news was we have it with us tonight, but it came in at 32.5. So that's great, below 35. I was telling you all that it was going to be 35 to 45, and so we had all said we wanted to proceed and we needed to hurry, but it came in even lower, so that's really good news. So our contingent fund expenditures are at $84,999, and we had $100,000 put aside. So we're in good shape with those contingency funds. We'll have one bond outstanding. But I did want to show people, there's pie charts back here so you can see, excuse me, our expenditure overviews and revenue analysis. If you have any questions, but I did want to show you, because I know a couple of years ago this was a big deal, but we're very, very proud of our recreation department because we made a lot of changes last year, and they are working really, really well at adhering to the board's new mission, which was to not just waste money. We've got to get approval, stay within the budget. Below your expenditures is good, and so on the last page we show, in fact, that with an efficiently running recreation department, they actually generate profits to keep our town taxes down. So not all recreation departments can do that, and maybe they can't do it every year, but the beauty of our system right now is that that they're managing things really well, and their any revenue from our revenue producing departments helps us keep our tax down. So I think we're in good shape for next year. Unless, does anybody, well, you guys have been through it a million times, but does anybody have any questions? There's time on the agenda if you think of something as we're going through, okay? Okay. So with that, I would say that concludes the town supervisor's report. Can we turn to Councilman Welsh, and you can start us on board member reports?
Yeah, I'd like to report during the month of October we had that program, Unionville's Less Speed, Less Harm campaign. It was in conjunction with the state police, and the report back from the state police is that during the month of October, the state police effected 127 traffic stops in Unionville, issued 67 traffic tickets, and gave 85 warnings in conjunction with the campaign. So I think our thanks to the state police. I noticed they've been much more visible the last during the month of October, and it continues now somewhat into November.
It's great.
They're trying to stay on top of stuff, and hopefully people are slowing down. So,
yeah, we have to get them to watch the stop signs.
Especially with dark nights, longer nights, and bad weather approaching.
And we can do that again. We can have another campaign in a few more months, and
okay.
if people, we've got I have to say, the number one complaint in the town from residents is speeding and people, is traffic. The speeding, running through stop signs and excessive speeds.
Yeah. And on a similar note, I think we ought to thank the county for doing such a nice job replacing 2 bridges on Brusco, County Road 21.
Yeah, isn't that nice that was open?
Doing it in less time than they originally estimated, and the result was very, very nice.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if the town board could send a letter to the county executive of the county highway department and thank them for
Yeah, great idea.
focusing on a need for it and making sure it got done so well.
Yeah, now if we could just fix that Shaughnessy Road.
I was gonna say, and then you sandwich in there.
Well, that's our road.
And
I was hoping.
any assistance you can give us.
Well, I did place that call, and the commissioner, who's a very nice man and who did a stellar job, as you said.
Yeah.
He said, you know what, it's not in the budget, I didn't agree to do it, we can't afford to do it, that bridge is very expensive, but I will drive over there and take a look. So, never say no.
Tell them to bring a fishing pole. Some of those holes have fish in them.
Okay.
Well, also, it's a town road, so our own highway guy could consider
help.
doing something.
We're gonna have to have a nice
At
planning
least
session.
patch the holes up before winter.
Yeah, no, exactly, but I think that's great, we'll send out a thank you. So that Shaughnessy Road saga will continue, we'll get back to you if we hear anything. Great, thank you, Councilman Welch. Councilman Frazier?
As you mentioned here in the agenda, the highway truck we ordered earlier this year has arrived, and he's very pleased with the way it turned out. I've been speaking with him, and we are going to send that out for some reflective striping on it to make it more conspicuous at night while it's out plowing, especially in intersections. It'll be a blue stripe, reflective stripe down the side. It'll also denote it as being a Union Vale, rather, truck.
Okay, what kind of plow do they provide on it?
I believe it's a Boss plow on there.
V plow or straight?
I don't recall exactly what's on it.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, looking at the
Look it
picture,
up.
it appears to be straight, but I don't want to swear to that.
Okay.
Hey, would you mind forwarding that picture over to us and we can post it so people can see
Sure.
it? It's a big purchase for us this year, people might want to see it, and we can put it on the website.
Sure.
That'd be nice. I know Richie was in here and he showed people, but nobody got I don't think anybody got a photo.
He did send me one.
Oh, did he?
So I could.
Oh, good.
unless you have a better
Okay,
one.
yeah, that's probably some more.
All right, great. That's good news, though. Thank you. Councilwoman Kelly?
I don't have anything specific. I just want to apologize that I had a family emergency for the last meeting, so I had to miss.
Yeah, I'm glad everything's okay. Councilman Morris? Okay. Okay. All right, next up, the highway superintendent did not submit a report for us to share tonight. I don't have, I know that they were out plowing. I know that there's a lot of work to be done, and we'll get to that as soon as we can. But I don't have a report. There was nothing shared. I don't know, did you hear anything from our highway super? No? Sometimes they...
And just about the truck.
Yeah, which is good news, we got it. All right, town clerk report.
So I actually have something exciting. We received in the mail our new 2020 permits for the recycling center. And in order to save money this year, we decided to go with a magnet, which was actually about $500 cheaper. So I don't know if it will stick on your car all season long, but we're going to give it a go because of the cost savings. But it will stick to any metal magnetic surface. This is what they look like. So non-residents will be yellow, and residents will be like a periwinkle color. Anyway, something different. So we will have them on sale as of Monday, and as Supervisor Moss mentioned, we'll be able to pay for them online, in person, at the town hall, through the mail, or you can drop off your application at the recycling center, which will then be submitted back to town hall for sending out in the mail. So.
Good job on that. I have to say, I said every department is trying to find ways to save money, and the town clerk took it upon herself. She was searching, because we spent a lot of money having them printed.
Yeah, they were around $700.
Yeah, so, and she took this, and we don't know if that magnet's gonna hold anything, but it looks good.
Yeah. Keep it on your
Yeah,
phone anytime.
I wouldn't pay
Yeah.
much for this and have it pay a lot for
Yeah.
this and have it blow off. You better off
So
keeping
use caution when you have them on your car, but most people didn't like the sticker because they didn't want to put them on their vehicle and have that adhesive left over, so.
It's a little heftier, it's a
Yeah,
little
it's a
weight
little
to it.
thicker,
Yeah.
yeah. So we'll see how it goes. If it's total flop, we will certainly revise and still save money next year as well.
Yeah, nice job, thank you very much. Any public comments on agenda items?
Comment on the budget?
Sure, yeah. Do you mind speaking? Yeah, thank you.
I don't want to stand, Miriam Tannen, and I'm just here, I know that the budget for the library was in the budget, and
Yeah.
it still is in there.
It is.
And just wanted reassurance that if the new proposal you made to the individual libraries was not successful, that there was a contingency plan, how you were going to handle it going forward.
Well, by the way, I owe you a phone call, but I thought you might want to see, I wanted to give you, would you hand this? I wanted you to have some of the information that we're exchanging with them. And I think that what we'll have to do is when we hear from both those libraries, if the answer is no, we're going to sit down and hash it out and make a determination then.
Okay, so it's not definite.
In December, I'm sure December, I think because some of them have later board meetings, so, but I'm sure in December. We have a work session on December 5th, which will be a voting work session because we switched our solar development discussion from tonight to December 5th. And we have a board meeting, a regular agenda board meeting. Both of them will be, the board can take action in either meeting, so you may want to come to either one of those. But on December 5th or December 19th, we'll have 2 opportunities that month.
Okay, I haven't done the 5th, but I'll make the 19th, but thank you. And I know that listening to all this budget talk, the library is a small piece of it, but important to me and I think other people in the community, so thank you.
It's really not, of the amount of money that we raise in taxes, that library contribution is 4.3%. It's actually a very large portion of it, which is why we study it all the time.
Yeah.
So you understand.
I do.
That's part of our job.
I do have a business, I understand budgets.
Yeah,
I
nice.
understand $350,000 for a roof is a lot to deal with, and of course, all your highway. And, so I do appreciate all the time that you're doing. The website is wonderful. I think there's a lot of great things happening in the town, which I'm really happy about.
Good.
But I am concerned about the library.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Any other comments on agenda items? No? Okay, then we're going to move on. I didn't have any of the department heads come because they're all exhausted. They've been working hard, and they're going to do a big recap for us in December. So I let them off the hook, and they've been coming in early and working late. But I did want to bring the Parks and Recreation, our park manager is named Jake Gosnell. Many of you know him. I wanted to share with you his report, and these are all things that the board has been working on all year. You may have noticed that cute new green awning down there, which shows a new entranceway direct into the office, which was better than the one that we had with going around and going up steps and stuff. So we have that was put in the nicer weather. But now the brand new gutters are on the building, and when you get a chance, they're so white and clean and gorgeous. You drive by and you don't realize that before there was grass, and they were old and bent. And so anyway, we got new gutters, which is going to really help us, the downspouts, keep the water away from the building. If you drive out of here tonight, if you get a chance, look down below. They're pulling out. This is part of our Time Warner Park Phase 2 of the parking lot update that we made in 17 and part of 18. So part of our promise was to finish that project, which is Phase 2. And you will see all of that. A lot of the chain link fence has already been pulled out, and they replaced it with split rail. So when you look down, it's starting to look much better. It's not 100% finished yet, but it's starting to look really great down there. The roof repairs I mentioned are being done. That's going to be a $1,000 Band-Aid to help us save money for the big new roof. And the windows for number 11 Time Warner Park Road are on order and will be installed as soon as they get here. We had to wait for the third quote. We thought we had a third quote. We didn't, so we waited for it, and then we proceeded. It took us a little longer than we thought, but those will be put in, if not November, December. So they're doing a lot of work down there, and it's going to be lovely. So that is from our parks manager. So old business, town board members, you all have in your packages. Well, that's actually for motions to be voted on. We're going to talk about the employee benefit payroll changes that are in here, in your package to take a look at. We can table it as much as we want, but I think it would be nice to get it done by January 1st. We can table it 2 more times if you haven't had a chance, because this agenda came out late today. I recognize that. So the reminder wasn't there with you. But we talked about taking some payroll or an employee benefit changes because there's inconsistencies and we have to wrap them up. Always mindful of our next audit that might be coming. And the reason is, like in our employee handbook, they had one sentence, and then what we do in reality was a different one, and that's as far as health insurance coverage. It says for full-time regular employees and full-time elected officials, so we needed to discuss that, and that was the only one that has an attachment. The other things are, like, it's past practice, we've always given 2-hour minimums for people that come out in the snow or have to do something, especially in an emergency call, but we've never voted on it. There's no vote on record. I do recommend that we have now a 3-month waiting period for any new full-time employee that is going to be coming on and taking advantage of benefits, only because we got burned once by somebody coming in and staying for 6 weeks and going through a insurance deductible and then leaving. So I think a 3-month waiting period, it's consistent with...
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's just consistent with our trial period, because people have 90 days and they can, they can decide they don't like us and we can decide we don't like them in the 90 days, so this would be consistent. And the last one was compensatory time. And this was a special request by our non-exempt parks employees. And they're unique because they have to be paid overtime for some snow plowing that they do at the fire district, but also they do all the setup and breakdown for all the events. And they don't necessarily want time and a half. They would rather have the comp time. And I don't. It's not. Financially, it wouldn't make sense for everybody. But for this particular department, they have, other than the fencing that they're putting up in this cold weather, they have some downtime in the winter where they would love to take a half a day off here and there because it's a little quieter for them. And so they actually requested if we would consider this. And I looked at the numbers, and it wouldn't work for everybody, but for certain non-exempt employees, it would certainly work. And so there's some bullet points here. Must be taken within 2 pay periods during the slow season with the manager's approval. Can't be carried over in the new fiscal year, and comp time does not accrue unless there is actual overtime for hours worked, like at the holiday at the end of the year or something. So that is on deck to be voted on tonight. Does anybody want to discuss that now? Do you guys feel, discuss it during the motion, or?
I wouldn't mind voting on it. I don't know, does anybody else feel they need more time to evaluate it?
I think somebody was going to do a little...
Yeah, I wanted to look at it again, and with the budget things that we had going on, I didn't have a chance to do that.
All right.
If we don't mind waiting one more meeting,
Okay.
I would like to go through it again.
Yeah, it's very helpful when people do research and read it. Okay, December 5th, table. Okay, next order of new business, Furnace Pond Dam, I'm sorry.
I just didn't come to speak on this, but you said that this would be for one department? But it'd have to be, I think, it would have to be across for all departments, and I have no idea how that plays out, just mentioning
I
that.
checked, and it's, they've got a lot of different rules that companies can invoke, corporations, I didn't look at it, municipal. But the labor laws suggest that because it's, like, for example, it's only for non-exempt employees. It's not something you can offer everybody. And so there are different levels and rules that you can instill based on the kind of work that they do and stuff. So I think that we fit within the categories.
I'm just raising that as an issue you might want to look at, because I know in our business, we can't do that. It has to be across the board for all non-exempt. We can't do one department can take comp time in the other
department. I'll check with the county. Thank you for raising the issue. I'll double check with them on the municipal side too, before that reason. Okay, next up, I gave all of you a copy of the Malone and McBroom. We've already discussed this twice, the engineering assessment report. It came in lower than we were anticipating, which is good for us. It's going to involve a drawdown of the impoundment, which will allow us to inspect, this is from Mark Carabetta, who's our engineer on the project. The drawdown of the impoundment will allow them to inspect the dam and spillway more closely, and they're going to be able to make the observations they need about seepage through the dam. They're also going to work on those low-level valves.
Oh, really?
Yeah. With the understanding there is some risk of the valve becoming stuck in an open position. But, those things have been, we told them, you're not going to, Jacob said, you're not getting them open. I mean, those are really tight. And they said, well, it would be a useful tool for you in the future, so we need to explore.
Well, certainly if they do manage to get them open, they probably won't close. So if
We'll
they go
see.
to the lengths that it would
Yeah,
take to
if
get
they're in
them.
business, they may have a good insight.
Well, they're just doing an analysis, and I think
Okay.
they're going to try it. If they can, they say to be done maybe next year.
All
So
right.
we'll ask them to be careful, but I thought that was very interesting. But you have a copy of the proposal, which is what we described before. And we will take a look at that. That's another one we can, if you want to take time and really discuss that, we could table that until the 5th too. That we want them, and we told them just to hurry up with the maintenance plan and keep this ball rolling. We had the instructions, which is why he got this to me so fast. I don't know if waiting a week or so is going to slow them down because they are working on the maintenance plan.
I can't imagine with the holidays coming up that they're in a rush to get started.
Well, I don't know.
I
They've
think
been-
they're worried. I
Yeah.
think they want to get started.
Especially with the weather, always an issue.
Yeah.
I think we should everything they've done so far has been very promising and encouraging and less than we thought expense-wise, so I'd rather encourage them to keep going.
Yeah, well, that's what I told him from our last meeting, we had kind of said that, and you were worried about it. I think that they've kind of gotten that message, so that's why they sent this, but I also recognize you may want to dive into all these details, but it is exactly what they told us that they're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's nothing new in there, then no speeding.
Yeah, I'm a little more worried about what they might find if we don't, I just want to.
I'm anxious to find out what they're going to find.
To see if anybody's had a problem with it at all.
Yeah, all right, good. All right, so then why don't I make a motion that we accept this proposal on behalf of the town from Malone and McBroom to conduct the engineering assessment report on Furnace Pond Dam as soon as possible.
My only question is that, I just want to verify we have the funds to cover it.
Oh, we definitely have the
Okay,
funds
that's-
covered, absolutely, yeah.
I'll second
Especially since
it.
it's lower, so.
Yeah.
The second? All
Yeah.
right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries, we'll accept their proposal and tell them to keep moving. Last night we had the Citizens Preparedness Training here that was offered and given by the Dutchess County Department of Emergency Response. And Bill Beal is the manager of the Emergency Management Center. He did a fabulous job. The commissioner came as well, Dana Smith, who had been here for the community meeting after our tragedy on South Smith Road. And he wanted to come back over and say hello to some of the people. So the commissioner was here, and Bill Beal was terrific. And they want to come back and do another, it's the one, and I don't remember the first part of the name, but it has to do with how to handle emergencies and stop the bleeding. Like it has some medical component that they think would be really helpful, and they want us all to know that. So I thought in the first quarter of next year we'll have that, and everybody, they said that's extremely helpful. I guess in the old days, they didn't worry about stopping the bleeding as much as, your head and doing it. Now he said the first thing they go for is stopping the bleeding.
Yeah.
And so they want to come back. But, you should go to ready.gov, and if you haven't gotten those packages that, you're in your household emergency kits, he really sold me on it again last night. I haven't done it in 10 years, but he really sold me, and the ready.gov site is really important, but he talked specifically about family plans and how everybody has to know who's going to be where. And then the other thing that he said that sometimes people forget is situational awareness. When you walk into a room, you got to know where the exits are. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to get out of there. And one of his examples was he went to a wonderful concert down in the city, and they had on orchestra seating. And he said the orchestra row had 45. There was no aisle. So he said he had dead center seats, and you're sitting there saying to yourself, because he's in the emergency business, how in the world am I going to get out of here? There's 25 people that way, and there's 25. And he said, you really have to get, you don't want to be in the maybe it's better to sit in the aisle in some of those Manhattan joints. But anyway, situational awareness, family plans, and all the other stuff on ready.gov. They did a fabulous job. If, I don't think anybody in the room was there, but we will have them back to do the other one. But I just, shout out to them, and we're going to send them a thank you too, because they were really very, very impressive. So that was a good thing that happened. We have discussed in 2 months our updated financial processes for the tax collector and town clerk. I'm going to, we're going to post this rather than read it. It's not very long, but based on some things that have happened and what our insurance company is suggesting that we do in other, because of some problems in other towns, we have done, I think, a thorough job and practiced the tax collector and town clerk divvying up responsibilities so that the person that counts the cash isn't the person taking it to the bank. It's always separated. And I realized we talked about this last time. We said everybody had been working on it, it was working well, and then we never voted on it. So I want to vote on that tonight so it becomes official. Okay? We can do that now if you'd like.
Yeah.
Why don't, do you mind?
You want me to read it, or just?
I don't think we need to read
All right.
it unless people...
It's pretty straightforward, and I think it was read
It'll be
in the
posted.
previous meeting.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion that we adopt this financial process, which is actually in practice
Yep.
and working well,
We've been testing.
and officially adopt it.
The town clerk and the tax collector.
I'll second that.
All in favor of the new financial process?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Terrific, thank you very much. And that was really it for some of the old business that we needed to clean up, take care of. Under new business, thankfully our attorney, Jeffrey Battistoni, is here because he was charged with 2 projects last time, and thank you for being here, because we have in all of your packets 2 pieces of information delivered to us from our town attorney, and I'm wondering...
You want me to summarize them?
Would you mind to take
Sure.
the first one is Town Code Section 21045.
So at the October 17th meeting, I was asked to research 2 items. The first was Town Code Section 210-45C and whether it applied to the holiday light display at 8 Patrick Drive. That section of the code is entitled Carnivals, Fairs, Circuses, and Other Events, and it relates to not-for-profit organizations holding such events either on their own property or on someone else's property. And my advice is that that section does not apply to the holiday light display. That display, in my view, is created by the homeowners and their family members, not by a not-for-profit. There may be times where a not-for-profit benefits financially from that, but that's incident to the display itself. So I didn't think that section applied. I think that's fairly straightforward. I don't know if you have any questions about that. So I have a letter which summarizes that, which I think you all have.
Yeah.
The next thing I was asked to research was an issue related to wood chips at intersections, affecting visibility,
Sure.
basically being a traffic safety issue. And there is, under the New York State Highway Law, Section 319, entitled Obstructions and Their Removal, and I think it applies. It requires owners of land to remove obstructions. If they don't, the town superintendent of highways can serve a notice on the homeowner or property owner to remove them. If the property owner doesn't, the superintendent of highways can do the removal on his own and then bill the property owner, and if the property owner doesn't pay, the cost can be levied against the property, so there's a way to collect the money. So that does apply both to town roads. There's a corresponding provision that would apply to county roads as well, and the county highway superintendent. I didn't find anything specific in your code about that issue, but I think it's covered here under this section of the New York State Highway Law.
That's very helpful because it wasn't in our code, and we were having, the Department of Transportation is overwhelmed, and we were having trouble getting, full information from them about it, so thank you, this is really helpful. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Well, Jeff, the thing that also concerned me about that location was there's no driveway designated, and there were trucks and sometimes private vehicles coming in and out of that property from many different places. And if you're trying to drive along the road, all of a sudden somebody's pulling in or pulling out where you don't expect them because there's no designated access to the road. So I would think, wouldn't it be reasonable to tell them they need to have a driveway permit?
Yeah, there is a town code section on that.
Right.
Bear with me a second, and yes, about the installation of driveways, but also the maintenance of them, and it's
Yeah,
section 111-8. It's pretty extensive about the driveway permit process. So, yes, if there's a driveway there, that would apply. Or if there needs to be a driveway.
yeah, there needs to be one.
Right.
So I forwarded this to our code enforcement officer and our
Good.
highway superintendent so they could
Great.
review it and discuss it
Good.
and talk about next steps. I think our code enforcement officer, George Kolb, is of the belief that it has stopped growing, which is a good thing. And he sent them a letter recently asking them to flatten it out so that the visibility would come back, because we didn't have this information. And our highway superintendent wasn't inclined to get in touch with them. So the code enforcement officer said, well, I'll do what I can do, and since it looks like it's not growing any longer, his next instruction to them is to please flatten it out, lower it down, get it, and he's using 48 inches as his guideline, because he feels like from a sitting position. I don't know, that's not in our town code, and he was asked by the homeowner, where did you come up with 48 inches? It's not in the town code, is it? And he said, well, I think it's just common sense. I'd like to urge you to stick with that height, and but I think if they will flatten it down, and now that with your new information, you know, we have a little maneuverability.
Okay. I didn't find anything specific about height.
Yeah.
But if an obstruction impedes travel, that's enough.
Yeah.
So,
But when I gave you 210-15 corner lots obstructions at intersections, this is our town code. And it says at all street intersections, no obstructions to vision, such as fence, wall, hedge, structure, or planting over 3 feet in height. So I'm not sure why. What do you, like, so this isn't an intersection?
I couldn't remember the section offhand, but is that in the subdivision section? I didn't know that just applied to new subdivisions as opposed to all roads. That's the reason I hesitated about
Oh,
that.
okay. I don't know, I pulled it out, so.
Right, and
Now without,
I can
like,
look at
looking
that. Corinne, I can look at that for you.
Okay.
And it is an interesting corner, because you've got the town road, a county road, and
Yeah.
a state road.
I mean.
It's a horrible setup.
Yeah, it's a horrible setup, and I have to talk
It's a
to...
horrible 5-point anyway. So
exactly.
it's been horrible. Now you add anything else into the mix, and it's
But this
not
is
great.
good, and this actually is very helpful, because it gives the highway superintendent some flexibility where he can actually, you know, affect a change, which is what we were looking for, so thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we will have public comments on town issues at the end of the meeting. I just want to mention that, as if anybody's waiting. But now it's time to go through our motions, and
Budget is a big one.
yeah, I think we should approve the budget so we can meet our required
Yeah.
deadline.
Well,
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2020 budget as distributed this evening. Is there a second?
I will definitely second that.
All in favor of passing this budget?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Budget passes. It's
Thanks for all the
unanimous vote.
tweaking and
Thank you.
getting it all so accurate.
My favorite part is the stump the band part. I really do like it. I come to the meetings and the board members come up with, what about this and what about that? It works, we have a really good process, and I think that it works well.
It did work well this year.
All right, we're going to table, no, we just approved the financial controls for tax collector and town clerk.
Yep.
We're going to table 12.3, the motion to approve specific employee benefit and payroll changes. We have voted and approved motion to approve Malone and McBroom's engineering assessment. So I'd now like to suggest that we, I'd like a motion where we can, so we can pay the bills this week. All the vouchers are in front of you. May I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Great, thank you, Councilman Frazier. All in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
All right, the bills shall be paid. At this point, there's public comment on town issues. Does anybody want to say anything? We'd like you to come on up just to the microphone so that they can hear you from home, okay?
Sure. I can walk around when I talk, so I'm not sure.
Good, this is perfect. Just take the mic with you.
I actually prepared a script. I'm not going to read it because I think it's boring if I get up here and read this. I will read the script and the notes with the town board so they can get included in the minutes of the meeting, and any questions that are outstanding we can come back to later on. So my name's Glenn Morrison. I guess I should have introduced myself.
In your street? You
Yeah,
say you give
Bloomer
your name
Road.
and your address.
Bloomer Road.
Okay.
Most times when I tell people that, they say, "Oh, that's where those lights are." Well, that's exactly why I'm here. We moved in about 31 years ago. We moved in because of the kind of rural, quiet nature of the environment. Didn't know that little light display up on the hill beyond me was going to explode into what it is today, and I think I used that word reasonably. About 12 years or so ago, there was 73,000 lights, which is a lot of lights. I'm not sure how many lights people here have, but a lot of lights, right? And last year, there was 607,000. So a lot of lights and a lot of things that go along with those lights, whether it be things that's difficult to look at a requirement for traffic, you talked about trash earlier, and general commotion kind of things, or whether it be regulatory requirements, safety concerns, not only for the residents, which I'm one, the visitors that are coming, and from a property damage standpoint, fire. So that's kind of what's in the back of my mind, and Betsy, you and I have talked about this multiple times, so I'm probably a pain in the rear end to Betsy, but none of that is new to you and maybe to some other folks on the board. I'm typically pretty laid back. I don't typically get up, or like to get up and talk in environments like this, but I do it when I think something's serious, or when I think something's important. And I think this is serious and important. Not just because I live there, but partially because my training. I've got a master's degree in health and safety. I spent 35 years in that field. I've had people working for me that contribute to laws that we all abide by. So I'm very familiar with health and safety requirements. And I think there's issues here that I guess I haven't been clear with the town, because the town's kind of managing the symptoms, the good work that George Treadwell and his team do. And by the way, he's not here. Please pass that on if you can. I mean, I'm sure George and his team would rather be someplace else other than sitting on a cold, dark, not dark, it's not lights, it's not traffic, corner yelling at people for doing whatever it is. I think they'd rather be someplace else on their holiday. So thank George for me, please. Thank Karina for bringing this up in one of the town board meetings. Again, I was having a hard time getting what I thought was the right level of attention, so thank you for bringing it up. Mr. Bannistotti, we haven't met. Thank you for doing what it was that you did.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you too. Actually, let me reverse here for a second. I understand, and I think the residents understand the attraction from the lights. I think we all understand the benefit that can come from the money that's collected. I don't think that's a question. That's not, please don't anybody walk away from this thinking that anyone doesn't understand the attraction and understand the benefits. Personally, I prefer to see this in a public area that's designed and zoned for it. Betsy and I have talked about this. The town's not going to do that. The homeowner, I'm told the homeowner's not interested in moving it elsewhere. So I need to take that with face value. But the least I can expect is for the town to enforce code compliance. And I will tell you right now, notwithstanding what Mr. Bannistotti mentioned, I got a couple of questions for you. It's not in compliance. It is not in compliance with electrical safety requirements. And again, how many years I tell you, 35 years I've done this? It is not in compliance. It is an accident waiting to happen. And there's liability to the board for that. There's concerns on the parts of residents, myself included. Now, you might ask, why is it an accident waiting to happen? Well, has everybody seen it? Everybody know what I'm talking about, the lights?
Yes.
Jeff, have you seen?
I have not. I've seen a visual, picture of it, but I've actually not driven there.
I brought some pictures. I'm going to give you some pictures.
Yes, 5 minutes.
I thought that might be the case. Hold on.
Okay.
What I gave Jeff was some aerial pictures, which it sounds like maybe, they're black and white, they're not color. So it kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude of it. The last couple of pictures show the traffic, which indeed is one of the concerns. What you see on those last couple slides is what I see when I look out my front door between Thanksgiving and right before New Year's. I told this town board like 2 years ago when I came that I moved here for a reason. If I wanted to live on Route 9, I would have bought a house on Route 9, but I kind of see Route 9, as do other neighbors in the area. But there's no laws, there's no requirements on that, and I really can't ask the town to do anything other than what George has been doing, and that is trying to control that traffic. I wish there was a way I could limit the traffic. I'm interested in any comments, if there's a way to limit that traffic. But it's not a fun place to live for a year. And I hope people can empathize with me. People come and enjoy it, and they go home to their houses. And we put up with it the next day, and the next night, and the next night. So it just kind of goes on. But my concern is compliance. So let me kind of go back to the compliance. And again, I'm going to give this to you. I've scripted it, but I'm not actually reading it. Jeff, I acknowledge your comment that one, it's the homeowner who's responsible for it, and that the non-charitable or the charitable organizations are just kind of there. I think they're an integral part of it. I'm not sure what your word you used in it, but I understand and acknowledge it's the homeowner. But what I think I need the town to acknowledge is that there's another compliance issue here. And it's got to do with extension cords. And this is really the reason why I'm here. Because I just haven't been clear with other people, whether it be the board, whether it be George Kolb and others. Walk by that property. I try to get my steps every day. I try to get my 10,000 steps. I'll walk by the property routinely. And what I see throughout the year is extension cords strung from trees. Some of those trees are, I want to say half dead, in an advanced state of decay or decline, whatever you want to say. And the National Electric Code is very specific about extension cords. They are temporary devices. They're designed to be used until such time as their use is no longer needed, and never more than 90 days. It's very specific, and I can share that with people, again, if you like. And that's obviously not happening. Why is that? Well, extension cords are not made to the same standards as the wiring that's behind your well and elsewhere. The other thing I see is I see a lot of extension cords that are designed for inside buildings used outside. And I'm not sure how familiar people are with that. If you look at an extension cord for outside, they tend to be thicker. There's more insulation on them. There's no color coding requirement, but they tend to be orange or, kind of bright colored. So it's pretty easy to see which ones are designed for inside and which ones for outside. The ones designed for inside are smaller. And I was cleaning my garage the other day, and I brought a picture. This is like a show and tell. I'll pass it around. That happens to be an extension cord designed for inside houses. It doesn't have the same kind of insulation on it. It's not protected, just like the other extension cords are not protected from falling trees, the heat, the cold, the squirrels, you name it. The requirements are there for a reason. And I'd be glad to read you the requirements. I've done that before. Betsy, we talked about it back in January, when you committed to getting answers to these questions. And here we are in November, and I,
So let me respond. We're almost at 10 minutes, so I need to probably ask you to conclude. But there's a couple of things here. Number one, the homeowner is a senior engineer at Global Foundries and is convinced that the way he has everything set up is proper. And the homeowner will not permit, doesn't want anybody to come on his property to do any inspecting, because he's been doing this for a long time and he feels like he knows exactly what he's doing. I'm not trying to speak for him, but if I paraphrase, I would think that I think I'm correct in my paraphrasing. the town has always felt, and then, when I looked at it when I first got here, after I met with you, that, you know, it is private property, and as a result of it being private property, that they can put up holiday lights. And their view is that what they've set up there is quite safe, and they haven't had any incidents all these years. And I think that somebody would have to get the homeowner to agree to some sort of an inspection, which for the town, the homeowner wouldn't. But maybe if you knocked on his door and asked him, he might, since you have a background in something like that. But given that it's private property, and that, as we discussed it earlier, I think, you know, one of the issues was if you stop one, you stop them all. It's like you can't say, you know, you can't have lights, and you can't, but you can. So it is on private property. They are very meticulous about it. They take care of it. They do raise a lot of money for charity. There's a lot of good done, as you've acknowledged. But I think that because there is a lot of good, there are a lot of people that actually do like the lights. They come from all over, and people have proposed there and all kinds of things. I mean, we see and empathize with your position living there, but I found it so interesting. Last year, I was diving into it more and more as a newcomer with your explanation, and it was weird. Some of the traffic problems are based on the locals having parties and inviting all their friends over to go see the holiday lights and entertain them, and that compounds the traffic with all the locals. So a lot of the locals seem to like it because they're having private parties that creates more traffic. So
I haven't found a local who likes it, so I have not done a survey.
I can tell you local that do love it.
People who live in the area, and in other words, people who are on the
I have
route.
no complaints about it up in that area.
Okay, and I can't say, I haven't done a survey, so I will tell you I have
I
not
think the man
found.
across the street loves it, from what George Treadwell tells me. He sits out there in his chair and loves it and watches it every year and invites people over. So
You
I don't
talk
think that's a
about reasons
discussion.
why the homeowner is doing what he's doing, and he won't permit an inspection. Having worked in field.
It's a private property, he doesn't have to permit an inspection. That's his
Just
point.
if I built a pool and did put a fence around it, wouldn't the town inspect it and do?
Well, that requires a building permit. His display lights don't.
Understand? If it was evident there was an immediate hazard, I can see the hazard walking on the street. I don't need to go on the property. If those wires I showed you, you can see it from the street.
Maybe it's an outside extension cord. I'm not an expert.
It's not. You're right.
But I would guess that people, the outside ones are sold all Christmas season.
Since Mr. Battistoni is here, from a legal perspective, under what conditions can a town inspect a property without a homeowner's agreement?
I mean, that's not an issue that I've looked at before. If the board wants me to research something like that, I can, but that's up to the board as to whether you...
Because what I've been getting from the town for 2 years is it's private property. This is not a police state. We can't tell people what to do on their private property. I don't believe that. The town tells me they can't find an inspector to do it. I have a hard time believing that. The town tells me, there's 2,500 extension cords. How many extension cords do you have?
So
There's
you're worried-
2,500 extension
I just want to make sure I
cords.
understand you, Glenn. You're worried about the extension cords because you would like to come up with a way for us to stop the exhibit?
I want to be safe, that's all.
So you're worried about that family's safety?
I'm
You're
worried
not
about
trying
my
to
safety.
find
I'm
ways-
worried about my safety. I'm worried about property from the people around it. Having worked in the field for 35 years, I've seen it. I've seen all the excuses that you just mentioned from homeowners. 35 years, a lot of people will come back and tell you, well, geez, I'm a professional engineer, it's never been a problem before, I don't understand, but the fact of the matter is, here's the law. And I don't think anybody in this room is going to tell me that it's okay not to comply with the law. Can anybody in this room tell me?
What law are you talking about? Which law are you?
Electrical safety requirements, about extension cords.
Okay.
But do they, I don't know that they apply to private property.
Absolutely,
Private
yes,
property,
it's
but
a
not
national,
private
it's the
property.
National Electric Code,
Well,
applies to all, and it's not commercial,
What about campgrounds where people
Yes.
use extension cords to plug in?
90 days, more than 90 days?
90 days.
Well, his exhibit's not longer than
But
90
those lights
days.
aren't on for 90 days.
But the fact that they're not on is not the problem. The cords are there potentially getting damaged all the time.
From what I
code-
see, he takes it displayed down every year.
There are extension cords that are left in the trees all year long.
And there are definitely components that are left up all year.
And the code doesn't distinguish about whether or not they're plugged in or not. The fact of the matter is they're not designed for permanent use, and they're subject to
So
damage.
if he were to comply with these electrical concerns that you had, you'd walk away from
They're
it.
not concerns, they're non-compliances.
That's my question to you.
They're non-compliances. So in order to comply,
Answer this question. If they were in compliance with the electrical codes, you would stop worrying about this event.
yes. But right now, what I get from the town is that can't find an inspector, it's not a police state, can't go on the property. That's what I get from, I can see it from the street. I can walk in the street. And I know George is a
How
smart
far
guy.
away are you from the exhibit?
Where I
You're
live?
down at the other end.
About a quarter mile, third of a mile kind of thing.
No.
I mean, I'm glad I don't live
We
next
spent a
to it.
lot of time on this issue, we understand what your position is, the board will be talking about it, and well, that's 16 minutes, sorry.
Well, it sounds like you're rushing me off the stage.
Well, we have a 3-minute here, you've been
Okay,
talking.
and I appreciate that.
16 minutes,
So
28
So what I did, I didn't read this, I thought that'd be pretty boring if I read it. I scripted all my points. I want to give Andre, after the meeting, the scripts. And there's questions there. I'm just trying to get someone to act on, again, I don't get up here all the time.
Concerns.
I don't get up here all the time. I told you my qualifications, so you know what I've
We know the
done.
homeowner has some very impressive qualifications as well. So, you know,
I've seen-
I don't like the town being put in the middle of a community issue, and I know there's more than one way of looking at this. Have you ever knocked on their door and discussed and
I've
shared
not.
your background?
I've talked to people who have.
Have you spoken to them? Because you
I've
have
not.
the unique background.
I've not.
Okay, you might want to
I've-
try that, because I just suggested to you, Glenn, because, or I should call you Mr. Morrison, although we've been talking for 2 years. I just really think it's really hard for a town board to get involved in an issue that could be resolved between two homeowners that are neighbors. And you still haven't approached them. I do think, given your unique background, it would behoove you to have a discussion with man, because you are concerned about safety, and you have a unique background. He, as a senior engineer, also has an interesting and unique background, to those of us in finance and other careers. I really think it would just be great if you would take that approach once. We will take your points, we will post them, they'll be in the minutes for the meeting, and the town board will discuss it, but it is really hard for a town board to get involved with something that you haven't gone to that individual and discussed with as a neighbor yet.
I know you suggested that before.
And you haven't gone.
You and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
The reason why I didn't do it is I've talked to neighbors who have done it, and I got their input. In other words, there was a petition 5 years ago to nothing more than limit the hours. And the response I heard was, thanks, but no thanks, go away. So why do I want to put myself through that kind of situation? And
In the name of safety. If you're concerned about the
How many
safety, you might
times
want
do
to
you
put yourself
think
in that situation.
in my past career, people have told me, I'm an engineer, therefore it's right. A lot of times.
He didn't say it was right. I think that because he's an engineer, I think he too could be uniquely qualified to design it and to set it up. I'm not going to argue the point. I don't know your resume or his resume. I just think it's hard for us to get involved in a community issue when it hasn't been, there's been no attempt at that level yet. And we'll take a look at your points and we'll discuss this.
Will you commit to, I think Jeff had a question here a minute ago. My question was, under what conditions can a town inspect a property without the homeowners?
Okay, we're not going to commit to anything right now.
Well, you know,
We've already had our attorney look up some things that were brought up before. I think that the town board needs to talk about this and see which way we want to go with it. And we understand and empathize with your situation and all the neighbors, but I think there's a few things that we all need to talk about, and we can't commit to that at this point.
So commit to using the notes that I just gave you as an outline for that discussion.
Well,
I
I
will.
know your
I will.
points, yeah. I think
And
we're
I've-
familiar with your safety points,
talked to
right?
them. I've talked to them.
Yeah. All right.
I know we did 16, 17 minutes. I feel like I watched the CNN, I watched the impeachment hearings today. They all had 5 minutes, so I figured there's a sign up here, and I'm just
Well,
not my time.
our normal procedure is 3 minutes, but we wanted to give you more time because I know this is important to you and all the board members, want to be polite.
We're not going to answer this tonight.
We are
Well,
not.
thank you for the time. Obviously, part of my concern is it wasn't clear. That's why I brought down my show and tell kind of thing there. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you for coming.
Anybody else, right?
Are there any other public comments on agenda items, or non-agenda, sorry, town issues? Come on up. We've opened the field.
So I'm Dana Kilcrease.
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good. Yes, I'm married to Sue, and
Yep.
as such, I'm a full-time chauffeur and full-time cat feeder. So I live on Darren Road, and I wanted to support Glenn and the work that he's been doing for getting all this information together about some of the safety risks. And I have a real strong concern that the safety risks of the Christmas light display are being underrepresented here. All right? And I'll talk about different ones than what Glenn is talking about, although I will support the point about the electrical, cords not being adequate. Okay, if you take a look at all the white cords that are in these dead pine trees, it's going to take one spark, okay, to set off that pine tree and all the adjacent pine trees, and that fire would spread all the way around the house and through the neighborhood and take out our house. So I worry about that. I do worry about that. But you also have to worry about, we've lived at our house for 32 years. So we have lived through every single day that those lights have operated. Okay, so I don't know how many of you live within sight of those lights, but I would suspect that none of you do. And so I think that, given my length of tenure there, that I'm a pretty good judge of what the safety risks really are. I've seen many instances of going to the lights, and of course we get redirected around the back loop, going up Clove Mountain and so on. Getting to the intersection of Bloomer and Patrick, where I got to take a left to get around to my house on Darren, I've seen many times where cars will park on the pavement of the road, the driver will open the back door and disgorge his kids, who then go sprinting up to the lights to see the lights because they're interested in
Right,
it.
they weren't allowed to do that last year. They stopped.
I would imagine that there are incremental improvements that are made to the safety every year, but my perception is, having watched this for all the years it's been in existence, is that the amount of people that come to that make management of the pedestrian traffic unmanageable. And something has to be done to that. It's not just a matter of having more constables out there, right? What the town needs to do is to make the display less attractive. Now, no one wants to play Scrooge here, but the gay family works very hard to market this, to make it more attractive, to invite more people. I mean, you got the Guinness Book of World Records for the number of lights. So I think it would behoove the
They
town.
stopped that extra advertising, though.
Well, it's all over the website.
Yeah, it's on a website, but they
It's
don't
on
do
Google Maps, Betsy.
New Jersey and Connecticut and all that like they used to.
Yeah, but it's on Google Maps too. So, and I happened to be in Danbury the other day, and I was speaking to a sales guy, and he says, "Where are you from?" I said, "The Grangerville," and he goes, "Oh, you mean the place with the Christmas lights?"
You should have said Unionville. Hey,
But there are two aspects here. One is the pedestrian safety, which I have a concern about, and of course the fire safety. But I also worry about access to my house. Now, let me tell you one quick story. Remember back to December 14th, 2012. That was the day that the Newtown shootings happened. I have friends in Newtown, so that was a pretty stressful day for us. That day, we happened to be in a hospital in New York City with our son, who was going through a medical procedure that was extremely serious, more than you can imagine. After he got out of surgery and he was stabilized, we came home. And as we drove down Walsh and made the turn onto Bloomer, we got stopped because of the line of traffic that was going to see this Christmas lights. And now that was 2012, so things have changed since then, right? But we could not make it to our house. So we had to make a U-turn, come all the way around, go west Clove Mountain and so on. And what we ran into there was the people coming away from the display, and I've seen this other years too. These people are strangers to the area. They don't understand that the roads are windy, they're dark, they're not marked, they're not safe. So they tend to drive down the middle of the roads, okay, and cut corners around the bends. So that presents its own sort of issues, right? So what I really believe is that the town is in what I'll call a sacred covenant with the residents, not just with the neighborhood, but the town over. The board is in this covenant, okay, to ensure the safety of our neighborhoods, okay, which we all love dearly. That's why we've lived there for 32 years. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. But also to protect and preserve the property rights associated with being a homeowner in that neighborhood, part of which is having clear access to our house when we want it. And we can't do that with the cars that are there. So I have to be honest, Betsy, I really think that the town board and the town in general has failed in their responsibility to represent those interests for the neighborhood, and that needs to change. So I would encourage the town to really take a look at these things very seriously and realize the impact that it has, that we have seen every day that those lights have operated. Okay, I invite all of you to come over and see that. I mean, it's a wonderful display, there's no two ways about it. It's not very Christmassy, to be honest with you, but hey, it's exciting, it's attractive. So I would recommend that you all make the effort to come over and take a look at the display and understand what the impact is of living with that thing every single day during the holiday season. And it's not just 2 weeks. You know, they start the day after Thanksgiving and keep
they're
running.
almost
You know,
New Year's, yeah.
yeah, so it's like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, that's not why we pay town taxes, to have to suffer through that every holiday season. Right?
Well, thank you.
So that was just my 2 cents.
It's nice to see you, and we
You too.
appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
you very much.
Yep.
It's interesting, it's almost like, I'm not saying they're the same situation, but, you know, when we have all the speeding and all the people running through the traffic lights, and you want to say to everybody, you know, do the speed limit, people have to walk on these streets, you know, there are some caveats here. Getting people to follow the rules and do what we'd like them to do is not always so easy. All right, so this will be continued, and without any other comments, I suggest we...
Well, if we're, maybe just a quick executive session.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be brief.
Okay, so why don't we move that we go into an executive session for
All right.
a few minutes, and we will be right back. So you waited for nothing. Whatever. You're hoping.
You get to see us
We
again.
discussed what.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
That would be great. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Andrea and I, we have to get that budget certified and we're done.
Yeah.